All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. This is Brett Simus, and I'd like to open the October 11th Board of Selectmen meeting, and we'll start by having a pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America,
which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
So we have a motion to execute the state election warrant. That is in our agenda. I don't know, Denise, if there's any commentary you would like to apply?
It's pretty straightforward. The state's, it's required to be done, so we're fill it into our items on the ballot and
I'll make the motion.
Steve, do you have any questions, comments?
no, I do not. I saw the packet. It looks fine to me. I'm good to go.
All right, me too.
Okay, I'll make the motion. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to execute the warrants for the 2022 state election to be held on Tuesday, November 8th, 2022, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. to be held at the Nipmuc Regional High School Gymnasium, 90 Pleasant Street, Upton, Mass., and to direct that the constable post said warrant forthwith.
I second the motion. Stephen Mattelli and I.
All those in favor, Brett Simus, aye.
Maureen Brunel, aye.
All right, that's
Stephen
unanimous.
Mattelli and I.
Yeah, great. Unanimous action, motion carries. And next we have the town meeting warrant. So I think, but I'll open it to my fellow board members. It might make the most sense to just highlight, well, why don't we just go through them one at a time, but I think we can go at a pretty rapid pace. And I think there may be one or two, Steve, that will want to have more of a conversation about, like, separately. So sort of vote on the ones that we agree on and then discuss the ones that we may not and vote on those specifically.
That's good. And then just as we go through also, thinking about if we want to change the order, like at least the first, what's in the packet as article number 1.
Yeah.
We'd at least want to have towards the end, because this is probably going to be the most controversial, and rather start off with some wins for votes of town meeting.
Get some momentum
Spend the
first.
first hour and a half just on the first article.
So to that end, I mean, I don't know, Steve, Maureen, typically this is something that we haven't discussed. And it certainly makes sense to me, but I'm fine handling it however you both think. In terms of the order of the articles, because I think that would be a separate conversation, right? Like, do we want to look at the order of the articles? If yes, we'll do that as a separate order of business. If we think it's fine the way it is, then we can just leave it the way it is.
I, as one, probably would move the article 1 to the end.
Okay, Steve.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I don't, unless Joe has another suggestion of, shuffling the entire deck. If it's just as easy as moving Article 1 to the end of the program, I'm fine with that. I don't have an issue with that.
I mean, very often, like the last one will be zoning.
Yes.
And that, like,
Right.
you'll always have the zoning. It's the
At the
last
end.
one.
Yes.
And we could put it before that zoning one, so it's right after the 75,000 for lakes and ponds.
And just move the others up in the order.
Yeah.
Correct? Okay. You're all set with that, Steve?
Yes, that's fine with me.
So we would switch Article 1 to Article 11 and then move everything above that up one.
So
All
we
right.
need a motion to move Article 1 to the end of the warrant.
Realistically not. I mean, that's
No?
not for, if you were coming up with recommendations,
Oh, okay.
I view this order as really all until you approve the order.
Approve the order, yeah.
And when you approve the warrant and to execute it, then that, in my mind, solidifies the order.
Okay.
Okay, so why don't we just go through these one at a time to see if there's any additional questions, discussion, and once we are through that, we'll make one motion at the end and make any adjustments if we need to for individual article. So the first one on here is the bridge. This will be Article 11. I know, Steve, you had some questions. I think Dennis is here. I don't know. I'm certainly fine with including it the way it is. Obviously, we need to get a number in there, but short of that, I think it's timely. Just what we had talked about last time. I don't have any necessarily new comments other than what we talked about last
I
time.
don't either.
So one of the things, and Dennis and I were talking about this as well, is that, for the purpose of the article, the town should be appropriating like the full amount, but that may not be what the town actually pays, because we still have a couple weeks to figure out some additional alternatives, like either covering some of the costs for water and sewer out of enterprise accounts, maybe using some ARPA funds to sort of bring that down, but we still have to authorize the full amount. I did I did ask town council to chime in that this placeholder of just XXXX really shouldn't have that in the article. That if we're still trying to identify what that cost is, whether or not it should be just to borrow a sum or any other sum to be used, and just removing the X language, because we may not want to have in the printed warrant, and Dennis is still getting some costs if we put $1.5. So,
I mean, I don't think we can vote on it if we don't have a number. That's my view.
I agree. Some kind
We're
of.
not putting X's, we're not putting a blank. We can put a number in there, we can figure out the financing and the breakdown, and can we get grants? Can we use enterprise funds? Whatever, as long as we have the flexibility to move those shells after the fact, that's fine.
And that would have.
But we're not going to vote on an article without a number in it.
And that would have to be discussed at the special town meeting of where the financing is coming from.
Sure,
As long
exactly.
as we have a number.
Yeah, I mean, does
Yes,
that make- go ahead, Steve.
Yes, I agree with both of you. I would not be in favor of just leaving all X's in there. Again, as both of you mentioned, as long as we have the ability, if we can use some enterprise money to bring the cost down. If we vote on a number I guess that would be my question. If we vote on a number that we plug in there and it turns out that number is too large, how do we kind of undo it? Would we go back at a future warrant and, in other words, how do you have a warrant article let's just say you plug in a number of 1.5, but you only need 1 million? How do you undo that 500,000? I don't know, Joe, if you would have an answer for that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things is of course, it's an authorization to appropriate up to that amount. If we don't, we could do two things. We could basically vote to any extra funds that are not used. We can vote to basically close out that article. That will sometimes happen, say, when you have authorization to spend $500,000 on a new pumper truck, and you only spend $400, but you still have that money out there. You'll rescind that remaining balance, right? And so that would be something that would be able to happen, because as Dennis had said last week, this is the bridge program is a reimbursable grant. So one of the main things we know is that the impacts, as far as we don't go ahead and it ends up being closed, it's significant. Not only from health and safety perspective, but also impacts local businesses right in the center. So I think coming back to another town meeting, and it wouldn't be for because Dennis, it's going to take about 8 months for construction, right? we'd probably be looking, annual 2024 to rescind any authorization for that article. But that would be how to clean it up. So that would be pretty.
Well, what about the other option of just the first option you said, which was to borrow up to the.
We'd have to end it. We'd have to put in the full price tag.
Right. So you would just replace these X's with a number and change the verbiage to say up to. Would that save us the trouble of having to go through town meeting to rescind the dollar amount?
Yes. You have to rescind the dollar amount if you don't spend it.
If you don't say up to.
No, you still have to.
So even if you say up
Still
to,
in
you.
authorization.
It's still enough. Right.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
But it's telling us we're not just give us $1.5 million check.
Yeah.
And we're going to spend it all.
Right.
Yeah. I'm fine with that. I think that we put the number in here and we know that if we've got to dial back the number because we've gotten a grant or we get reimbursement or we can use funding from other sources, that's great, because it sounds to me like any other option potentially delays the work. And I think that's what we don't want to do. We don't want to delay the work because we're going through the administrative process of doing accounting and trying to get grants.
We do have Dennis here.
Yeah, I guess the only other question is, and I know there's probably no solid answer at this point. Obviously, we just executed the contract last week for the design money. So is there a chance that we won't have a number by November 1st, Dennis? Do you think
No.
that is a real possibility?
No, you'll have a number before that, and I made that a point when we instructed Weston and Sampson that they were the low bidder, the low quote, and we were going to award the contract to them. There were certain criteria that had to be met. One was to get on the grant immediately. Two was to have solid numbers prior to town meeting so that we could provide them. And three was to come up with options for alternative funding, even other than the grant. So they're already working on that as we speak. What I'm leery about doing is plugging a number in without their input, because we keep kicking around the 1.5 because it's the only number that we've heard. And this goes back well over a year ago when we were talking to Beta. And what if they come forward and say it's 1.6 or 1.7? Or I pray to God it's not, but I wouldn't be happy about just plugging a number in there until we had real figures from our engineers. And the second thing I want to bring up, Steve, specifically because it was a big portion of our conversation last time, was the new grants that are out there. And Joe and I were looking at them recently, and I was speaking with Weston and Sampson, and it's a two-phase approach that they do to our grants now. The first phase is $100,000 that we can utilize towards engineering. And that's the first grant that we go after. We can't even go after the construction grant until the engineering is complete.
Okay.
Which is
now the last number that you had was the 1.5 million. That's just the construction portion of the project. That's not counting the engineering, or was
Correct.
that with the engineering?
That was not with engineering.
Okay.
But we have already done well on engineering. We appropriated up to 400,000, and we won't need that.
Right.
So I feel like we're off to a good start. What I don't want to do is, I agree with the chairman, I don't want to take the options off the table and cut ourselves short. I'm hoping that I'm planning that everything is going to come into alignment prior to town meeting, and we have some viable options. When we get to town meeting floor, I'm hoping that we have some alternative financing available for the floor to consider to knock that price down, not just the grant, but also some other financing available, whether it be through the enterprise accounts or ARPA funding or wherever else that we think that would be appropriate. I want to make sure that we have looked at all the options available so we make the best decision.
Okay. Anything else, Steve?
No, I have no other questions.
Okay. Is this, okay, so you know what we're going to do is we will, So are you supportive of including this the way it is, Steve, assuming we're going to get a number in there, or should we vote on this one separate?
No, I think we'll put it forward. I guess we'll put it forward. I mean, there's so much uncertainty. I will say I don't like the article. I don't necessarily support it with all the unknowns that we have. However, I will agree with you and put it forward on the warrant.
Okay. Next is Article 2, which I think is pretty straightforward. Were there any outstanding questions on this one about closing off Warren Street? Okay. 3 is the Crockett Road easement. Any questions on that one?
No, I have none.
4 is road acceptance for Summer Circle. No questions? No? Okay. 5 is police department vehicle. Any questions on that one?
No questions.
6 was the police academy tuition. 7 was the fire chief vehicle for $55,000. Any questions on that one?
No further questions. No.
Okay. Any questions on any of these other ones? We've got the loading stretcher. We've got the 14-passenger minivan. And we've got the bylaws for the public sewer and exceptions. And we've got the $75,000 for lakes and ponds. And then finally, the zoning changes. Were there any of those that we wanted to talk about?
Not I.
No, I think as long as, we probably beat him up pretty good last week as far as dissecting these. Joe, unless there's anything new that has come about, maybe I guess with just the article with lakes and ponds, did we have any other updates on that one?
That CPC did vote to support the article to bring in front of town meeting, and that lakes and ponds is going to be doing additional research to bring to town meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else? If not, we can take a motion. I think we will want to state in the motion that we're going to move that first article to the 11th slot.
11 before the zoning article?
Before the zoning article. Yeah,
Okay.
maybe that's the easiest way to do it.
Alright.
Just, yeah.
I can do that.
You?
So it'll fall then between 11 and 12. Is that what we're thinking? Fall between the lakes and ponds question and the zoning question.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. That's right.
That sounds good to me.
Me too.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to sign November 1st, 2022 special town meeting warrant as amended, and to direct the posting of the warrant, considering that Article 1 will be placed at Article 11 on the special town meeting warrant.
I would second the motion. Stephen Mattellian, aye.
Brett Simus, aye.
Maureen Linnell, aye.
Motion carries by unanimous action. Great. Thank you very much. Let's see. All right. Anything else we need?
That's it.
Good.
The only thing would be that I did print off, so two members here. We have the election warrant, and then I have the signature sheet for the special town meeting warrant for signature, so then I can make the necessary changes. I have it formatted so it won't impact the signature page, and then we can get things taken care of.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
Great work, as always.
Steve, got
So
it.
Steve, if you can come into town hall maybe tomorrow.
Yes, absolutely. I was just going to ask you that very same question. Is there a deadline? I mean, would you like me there first thing in the morning, or is lunchtime appropriate, or what works best?
Really, whatever works for you.
All right. I will do that. I'll be in town hall at some point tomorrow. In my line of work, unfortunately, I never know when it'll be a quiet part of the day, so I'll call. I'll give you a heads up. About 4 o'clock, I got called to go down to Danielson, Connecticut, so that's why I'm unable to be there in person. So, thank you both for your patience, or all three of you for your patience, and I'll definitely be there tomorrow morning, or tomorrow lunchtime, one or the other.
We're a team. We're happy to support each other, and we will take a motion, and everybody can get back to their evenings.
Okay, I would make a motion that we adjourn the meeting. Stephen Mattelli, aye.
Maureen Grinnell, aye.
Brett Simus, aye. The meeting is closed. Thank you.